Hello everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely terrifying supernatural mystery, the chilling mechanics and dark secrets of the cursed Sururpur Well. Okay, let's dive into this, because this isn't just your run-of-the-mill ghost story. Oh no, it's a highly structured, absolutely lethal supernatural system that runs on seduction, transaction, and just pure paranoia. We're going to break down exactly how this curse operates, how it hunts its victims, and what actually happens when a desperate person tries to harness its dark power.
We really have to start with the midnight cold open because, well, it perfectly sets the rules of engagement. I want you to picture this. It's exactly 12:30 a.m. There's this dead, suffocating silence hanging over the forest. Out of the darkness, a figure wearing a heavy black cloak approaches a stone well. The figure throws a slip of paper into the dark abyss, immediately follows it by dropping a burning lantern straight down into the water, and then, and this is the key part, they turn and run away with the speed born of pure, unadulterated terror. Like they run as if they've just woken up some grave, unimaginable threat. As you'll see later in this explainer, this wasn't just some random act of vandalism. No, this was a highly specific, forbidden transaction. But before we get to who that was and what they bought, we need to understand what this well actually does to the people it hunts.
All right, let's look at Case File 1, the disappearance of Kalyani. So, Kalania was a local village woman, kinda infamous for being incredibly harsh to her daughter-in-law. Her fate really establishes the supernatural reach of the well. It proves you don't even need to be near the forest to fall victim to it. And this brilliantly illustrates how the curse physically targets its victims using, you guessed it, water. It literally starts as a localized invasion. Kalania is fast asleep in a room at midnight when, bam, a splash of water violently hits her face. She wakes up completely confused, only to find a stream of muddy water flowing right through her indoor courtyard. Actually, scratch that. It's physically impossible for water to be flowing there. But she's puzzled, right? She's complaining about the mud, and she follows the stream outside to find where it's coming from. The trail leads her straight toward the edge of the forest. The moment she realizes where she is, panic sets in, but it's way too late. As she turns to run, an invisible force grabs her leg. She is dragged screaming through the dirt, straight into the mouth of the well, vanishing completely. Her scream echoes, and then just dead silence. The well literally reached right into her home and reeled her in like a fish.
Moving on to Case File 2, the lure of the voice.
So while Kalyana faced brute force, the well has another, much more insidious tactic up its sleeve. Let's pivot to our main protagonist, a young boy named Rohan who's visiting his grandparents in Sururpur. Through Rohan, we see how the well attempts to psychologically seduce its targets before they ever even get close to the water. Rohan, like any curious kid, just wanted to see the village forest. But his grandfather adamantly refused to take him, going visibly pale at just the mere mention of it. That night, while sleeping on a cot in the courtyard, Rohan is woken up at 12:30 a.m. by this disembodied whisper, "Rohan, Rohan, come with me. I will show you the forest." It's incredibly creepy. The voice specifically isolates him, leveraging his own curiosity against him. It even warns him that if he wakes his grandfather, it's going to leave. It essentially creates this false sense of intimacy and exclusivity, luring him step by step toward the tree line.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark environmental contrast. Rohan is intercepted by his grandfather that first night, but eventually his curiosity gets the better of him and he sneaks out to the well. When he finally gets close, the whole atmosphere completely shifts. Think about your typical, normal village well for a second. It's the heart of the community, right? A source of life, a place where people gather, the water's warm in the summer. The Sururpur Well, however, it's the exact opposite. It is an epicenter of death. Rohan notes that even in the dead of summer, the air around this specific well is unnaturally freezing cold. There's no background noise, no insects humming, just a heavy, suffocating silence. The environment itself is literally actively rejecting light.
Silent environment that the psychological lure escalates into a physical manifestation. As Rohan wanders deeper, chasing that alluring voice, the source finally reveals itself, and guys, it is not a normal person. Rohan sees a hazy, smoky apparition. It's a figure of a woman wearing a black sari, manifesting directly out of the dark. The well was done whispering, it was ready to take him. If his terrified grandfather hadn't shown up at the exact right moment to drag him home, Rohan would have for sure shared Kalyani's watery fate.
Which brings us to Case File 3, Chandravati's Forbidden Pact.
This brings us to the climactic turning point of this explainer. We've seen exactly how the well hunts, right? But what happens when a villager actually decides to play the game?
We're shifting our focus from helpless victims to Chandravati, a woman who actively tried to harness the curse's dark power to cheat death. To really understand her motive, we have to look at the rapid, supernatural deterioration of her husband, Ramesh. It starts with sudden, violent episodes of vomiting blood. They rush him to the local Veda, the village doctor, who administers a special medicine and prescribes a strict diet of only herbal khichdi with absolutely no spices. Honestly, a fate almost as bad as the illness itself. But then 4 p.m. hits. That's when Ramesh suffers a terrifying relapse. He falls to the floor in absolute agony, and in this horrifying supernatural twist, his eyes begin to glow a luminous, unnatural red. The Veda is utterly shocked. Seeing those glowing red eyes, he steps back and declares that this is no ordinary illness. Ramesh is completely incurable. He is marked for death.
Faced with his absolute death sentence, Chandravati doesn't just grieve, she gets angry. She furiously rejects the doctor's prognosis. She glares at the villagers and spits out a very dark vow. "You watch, my Ramesh will live, and I will be the one to save him." It's a chilling moment of defiance. She is making a conscious decision to cross a terrible line, knowing full well what she has to do to override a death sentence in the village of Sururpur.
So, the crucial point here is, remember that midnight ritual we discussed at the very beginning of this explainer? That was Chandravati. Rohan actually witnessed her doing this while he was sneaking around the forest. Let's break down the mechanics of this forbidden pact. First, you have to approach the freezing well at exactly midnight. Second, you offer a highly personal item belonging to the afflicted. Rohan watched as she threw a pair of prescription glasses into the water. Third, you throw a burning lantern down into the abyss to seal the deal. And finally, you run away in sheer terror. It's a literal trade, you see, a personal artifact and a source of light traded to the darkness in exchange for supernatural intervention.
And the most terrifying thing about all of this is, the transaction actually worked. The morning after the ritual, the village headman and Rohan's grandfather go to Ramesh's house. They are fully expecting to pay their respects to a corpse. Instead, they walk in and find Ramesh sitting calmly in the courtyard with Chandravati, looking perfectly healthy. His color is back, he's breathing fine, and he is completely cured. The doctor is absolutely paralyzed with shock, because medically speaking, it is impossible for a man who is vomiting blood with glowing red eyes to be perfectly fine the very next morning.
But that relief they feel, it instantly turns into horror when one of the villagers points a trembling finger at the doorframe of Ramesh's house. Hanging right there is a mysterious earthen pot. In the lore of Sururpur, this hanging pot is a dark, undeniable symbol. It is literally the receipt of a forbidden transaction. The headman and the villagers instantly realize what Chandravati has done. They know that to save one single life, she bargained with the entity in the well, and in doing so, she brought the curse directly into the village itself. As one villager ominously points out, it might not even really be Ramesh's soul sitting there anymore.
Let's move to the final section and see how this builds. The aftermath. A village paralyzed.
Chandravati's desperate act permanently altered the entire village ecosystem. The entity wasn't just confined to the forest anymore. Following the appearance of that hanging pot, the headman institutes severe new survival rules. The once peaceful village basically becomes a prison. The streets must be completely abandoned the exact second dusk hits. The villagers are so terrified that they begin carrying raw turmeric roots in their hands at all times, relying on old superstitions to ward off the evil they know is now walking right among them. And there is a strict gag order. Rohan is firmly told by his grandfather to never, ever ask questions about the well or Chandravati again. If anyone is ever spotted outside after dark, the patrolling elders immediately and very forcefully escort them indoors. Sururpur is no longer a community. It's a fortress under siege by the very thing Chandravati invited in.
Which leaves us with a truly chilling final thought. Despite all the curfews, despite the raw turmeric, and despite the absolute terror gripping the adults, the well is still hungry, and it is still whispering. As the story closes, young Rohan hears that same sweet, disembodied voice echoing in his head once again. Rohan, Rohan, come with me. I will show you the forest. With the well's power now amplified by Chandravati's dark pact, we have to ask, will the village's defenses be enough? Or is it really only a matter of time before Rohan finally succumbs to the voice, walks into the freezing dark, and becomes the next permanent resident of the Sururpur Well? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious out there.